All right, so good morning to all of you. Uh, this is second lecture. If you remember last time, we had talked of the course file. Right? So in the course file, we had talked of syllabus and evaluations and so on, right? Syllabus, evaluations, and so on, etc. Right? So this is what we had talked of in the last class, and I think I had briefly defined or defined a computer, also defined architecture, and I think organization. So this is what we had done last time. Okay. So anyway, that was a fairly introductory class, and this class will also be a series to that, in the sense we will really not talk about a computer, in the sense we don't go deep into what is a computer and so on. We just try to convince ourselves that what is a computer and how to build a computer, and or how does a computer look like. So we will be at least convinced about what we are studying in this course. So this part was really the motivation part. So its motivation continued this time as well. But if there are any questions from the last discussion, I can take it, or any questions in general about the course, I can take it. Otherwise, I will move ahead. So if there are any questions, I can take that. Okay, so maybe it is too early for questions, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do today is I am going to pose a couple of questions, right? I'm going to pose a couple of questions and try to answer them, right? So this is what is the strategy. So the first strategy is, so the first question is, okay, okay. So these two questions, I think these are fairly, and I would encourage people to either put their answers in the chat, or they can even unmute and answer, because this is not very kind of difficult questions. So the first question is, which language does a computer understand? Anybody who can try to answer this question for me? Can somebody help me with this one? So can somebody tell me which language does a computer understand? I hope you understand you okay. So Shamal says uh, the computer understands a binary language, and we are comfortable in C or C++ and Java. Okay. Okay, I'll come to the second question later on. So the first question is, okay. So a lot of people say binary, right? Okay. So before this, can somebody tell me what's a language? So can somebody try to define a language for me? Can somebody define a language for me? Anybody who can try doing that? Uh, okay, in terms of a computer, rules for communication. Uh, in terms of a computer, so I think all of you are correct. There's no doubt about it, right? So anybody, a set of symbols by which we can communicate. Okay. Anybody who wants to improve? Okay. Okay. So maybe I can say that. I can say that, right? So I define a language as all possible instructions, right, which you can issue. So if I say I have a computer, right? So if I say I have a computer, right? If I say I have a computer, right? Uh, so a computer again, so you a computer can take instructions, right? So you can give instructions. So you can give instructions here, and you can get your output here, right? So there are some instructions which the computer can take, right? And then if you look at the set of all possible instructions, that this would define the language, right? So you understand that. So informally, I think you would be saying that you write a program, right? So so a program is a sequence of instructions. Right? So this you already know, right? This you already know. So all the while you talk of and you remember the last time's discussion, we said that when we are talking of a computer, we are worrying about a computer as a programming device, right? So we are thinking of programming the device. So we want to write a program. We want to write a program. With this program is a sequence of instructions in a language, right? In a language. So that's the relation between language, computer, and a program. Right? So the program is written in a particular language. It just cannot be any arbitrary language. It is the language which the computer understands. And then you give those instructions, which is nothing but a program, right? Which is nothing but a program. And then this computer can execute it for you and it can give some output, whatever is the desired output. So this, I think, this model everybody understands, right? So you know the relationship between a language, right, a program, right, and of course a computer, right? So this is how things are related. Okay. So very good. So I think this you already know from your maybe fourth standard or fifth standard. You have been reading this all the while. Now comes the question: which language does a computer understand? Right. So a lot of people said binary. Okay, so that is correct. So a computer. Any specific name for that? Do you call it by any specific name? Very good, very good. So a lot of people say Prabhav, Aditya, Mandeep, Gaurav, Vishaka. That's right. So a computer understands a particular language called as machine language. Very good. So this is very popularly called as machine language, and I think you will realize that for different computers, this machine language would be different. Right? So if I take a computer A, it would be some machine language. If I take a computer B, it would be another machine language, and so on. And usually, a computer can understand only one language, although it is possible for computers to understand multiple languages also. But for the time being, we don't go into all those details. Maybe down the line, when we understand architecture or organization, we will figure out how we can do that. So, for the time being, a computer understands a particular language. Let me write. So, let me write one here. Although later on, we will see that this one can be two or three as well, right? But for the time being, this is one, right? So a computer understands a particular language called as machine language. And I think most of you were correct that this machine language is binary, right? So this machine language is numeric. Can somebody tell me why this machine is binary or numeric? Can somebody tell me? So it is numeric and or binary. Why is it binary? Can somebody tell me? Why is it binary? Because of the nature of the signals involved, because two voltages are possible. Okay, because it can detect high and low signals. Two conditions on and off. Machine can either be on and off. Okay. Okay, so we will come to that later on. So I don't think I have got a very satisfactory answer. But okay. Okay. So maybe I'll leave some space for it so that I write down. So that is the first part. Okay. Easy to decode because it is easy to distinguish between two states of a signal than more than two. Okay. So all these answers are correct, but I was still looking for a better answer. Maybe we will try to get that answer. Okay. So that is one part. Okay, the second question: which languages or which language do humans use to program? A lot of people say so. We program in languages like C or Python or whatever, right? You know, etc. Right? So then the obvious question is, why don't we use machine language to program? Right? Why don't we use machine language to program? Can somebody answer that? Or do we use machine language to program? Have you ever written any program in machine language? Too hectic. Hectic would not be the right term. Too complicated to understand, difficult to remember, very inconvenient, very good. Complicated, not human readable, and tedious, difficult to understand. So I think okay. So one thing that I can figure out is it is difficult, difficult to program. Right? Why it is difficult to program? There are two reasons for it. There are two. Hard to debug as well, inefficient and tedious to express. No, I would not agree with inefficient and tedious. Okay, let me tell you. Right. So one thing which comes down out of all this discussion is that it is difficult to program. This difficulty stems from two aspects. One aspect is that numeric language is uh, is difficult for humans, right? Difficult for humans, which means if I give you a series of numbers, say I give you 100 digits consisting of 1 and 0, right? Probably a machine can easily process that, right? And even if it amounts to copying and so on, the machine will do it quite efficiently. But if you look at humans, right? If you look at humans, it is there. If I give you even a sequence, say 10 digits consisting of 1 and 0, there is there's a chance that you will probably mistake a 0 for a 1 or a 1 for a 0. And so numeric language is difficult for humans. That is one reason why. And there is another reason. Can somebody guess what is the second reason why it is difficult to program? So I have given you one reason. Numeric language is difficult for humans, right? A symbolic language is easier, right? So if I say add, it makes more sense. You understand that add would probably be adding something. But if I say a 01001 and I say no, this would be adding. No, this so mistakes can happen easily. Yes, that's correct, right? So that comes in this part. The numeric language is difficult for humans. Can you guess what is the other reason why you would not want to program in machine language? Why is it time consuming? Why is it time consuming? No spaces in between commands. Okay. It can cause fatal errors if not. So chances of errors are high. So all that comes here, right? So chances of error is high. It takes a lot of time. You can commit errors because it is not suitable for humans, the numeric language. Code can be extremely large. Okay, I take that as an answer. So Mandeep, Manideep, I take it. That's an answer fairly close because difficult to program because the machine language is too elementary or simple. So what we are saying is, or you can say, not very powerful. Various ways of saying the same thing, right? So what are we saying? You would not want to. Okay, so difficult to program in machine language, right? Why it is difficult to program in machine language? Because the numeric language is difficult for humans. And the second reason is machine language is too elementary or simple and not very powerful, right? Okay, so that is also Darshan's answer is also taken. You would have to write different codes for different processors, right? So that is also correct. Now, so the question is, okay, so if you understand all this, now the question that I want to pose is, why is machine language simple? Can somebody answer that? Why is machine language simple? Can somebody answer that? No, I would not like. That's not the correct answer, Dhananjay. So it is incidental that it is zeros and ones, and there is a reason for it. The reason is that because you deal with binary logic and you deal with devices or gates which understand binary logic, so it is easier to encode it as zeros and ones, right? But that is not the reason why it is simple. There are only basic instructions like add, transfer. Very good, very good. So Nitin is close to that. But why does it only contains basic instructions is my question. So it's a follow-up question to Nitin, right? So Nitin has very correctly pointed out that it only contains basic instructions like add. So if you look at any microprocessor for that matter, it would be doing very simple tasks like add two numbers or copy a number from here to there, or you just do a Boolean comparison, or you do a numeric comparison, and so on. So what Nitin is saying, uh, uh, right. So, yes, so complex instructions can be broken into simple. Yeah, that can be broken. But the question is, why don't you design a machine which can do complex tasks? I will give you an example. For example, suppose if you look at a user program, you would be trying to, no, you are trying to do a multiplication, or you are trying to do an exponentiation, or you are trying to do a sorting, right? So these are the tasks normally, no, which we want to do, right? The question is, why don't you design a machine which can do that? You have an instruction which says, do this for me, sort this for me, it can sort it for you. Why don't you do that? Why do you want to have a machine which with a simple language, with simple instructions? Uh, because the number of tasks possible is too large. Okay, I think I am not able to drive the point. I will give you another hint. You look at a language like C or Python or C++, right? Would you call it as a machine language? Uh, I think most of you will say no, right? Most of you would say no, right? So, okay, I can give you a hint question for this, right? A hint for this. Can you build a machine that understands C++, say, for example, right? So, implementing complex tasks will be complicated for physical design, and there are so many complex tasks. Very good. So I think, yeah, so one can express more in shorter amount of characters in closely natural. So in fact, so these languages that we use to program, again, they are not natural languages, right? So still we don't have computers or efficient computers which can understand natural language. So natural language, we're not talking of natural language. We are only talking of programming languages, right? So that's a correction, right? Okay, so I think somebody who was that? Nitin, right? Okay, so Nitin was close to the answer, right? So let me answer this for you, right? So what was the question? The question was, why is machine language simple? Well, the answer is because the hardware becomes simple, right? So why do you want the machine language to be simple? Because it implies that the hardware becomes simple. I hope you will appreciate that our hardware to add two numbers would be simpler than a hardware to multiply two numbers or do an exponentiation, right? And I think somebody said that complex tasks can be very well done by combining those simple things, right? So what we are saying is, because the hardware becomes simple, right? So why is the machine language simple? Because the hardware becomes simple. And what does it imply? It implies less complexity, right? It implies less complexity. It implies lesser cost, and sometimes also okay. Okay. So and you also understand that users programming is like C or C++ or the question is, why do you use these high level?
They are much more
They are much more
productive.
productive. What does that mean? Productive. What does it productive mean?
That means it is much easier for us to program in high level languages than in assembly or in machine language.
Yeah. So let me see what people have written to perform complex operations, short lines, minimize errors. Very good. Very good. Very good. So okay, I take your answer, Pulkit. Was that Pulkit?
Yes, sir.
So yeah. So why users program in high level languages? There are many two reasons for it. The first reason is they are uh, So the first reason is they are close to natural language. That is one. So because it is close to natural language, so what we informally call as adding two numbers, there probably you have a function which says add and so on. So they're close to natural language. That is one reason, and they are more expressive and you can map a complex task to one or more powerful instructions. Right? So this is the reason why you probably want. So high level language can work on different machines. Okay, that is incidental actually. But okay, I will take that as well. So okay, so Darshan says, right? So okay, let me see what Ishan has written. Programmers write in high level because they're easier to understand, less complex than machine code. Okay, and they allow programmer to focus on what is to be written rather than how the computer works. Very good, very good. So Ishan has a good answer. So why use this program in a high-level language is because they are close to natural language, they are more expressive, and you can map a complex task to one or more powerful instructions. And it is independent. Usually, it is independent of the particular architecture. Particular.
Sir, what do you mean by powerful instructions?
Yeah, I'll tell that. So it is independent of the particular architecture. And then I'm not writing it down, but I think we should look at what Ishan has written. That's a very nice statement that he has written. So they allow the programmer to focus on what needs to be done rather than how the computer actually works. So what he is trying to say is that suppose I want to display something. So for example, you want to write hello on the screen, right? I think most of you realize that by using a C language or something, you use a function called as printf or some other equivalent function, and you say printf hello. Rather than that, if suppose you were to worry about that, what is the address of the display device and which interrupt is used to interrupt the display, and then what is the physical address, and then how do you keep on polling the device and so on. So there are many details which go at the lowest level of a machine. So probably even writing a simple character on a display would require many instructions at the machine language, and they would be having many parameters, fairly complex. So apart from worrying about what to print on the screen, you would really worry about how the machine takes those instructions and what is the format and so on, right? So you would your focus would get away from the main task. So very good, right? So maybe I can write it down. So you focus on the task and not machine details. Machine details. Very good. So that's a very good one. Okay. I think somebody had a question that what do I mean by powerful instructions? I can give you an example. Just think that you wanted to do a multiplication of two numbers, right? So you have two numbers and you want to multiply. Now, I think most of you understand that when you want to multiply, how do you multiply in a C language? You have an operator there, right? So you say A into B, something like that. And how do you represent? Okay, so somebody has written, Gaurav says, high level language requires compilers and many times different architectures. Okay, I'll come to all that later, right? So I think most of you realize that multiplication is something which is required pretty often, right? Now just imagine a language like C which did not have a multiply instruction. So there was no way you could multiply two numbers. So, but there was an add instruction available, right? Can you tell me how would you achieve multiplication? Can somebody tell me how would you achieve multiplication? Uh, Gaurav, I will, yeah. So a lot of people know the answer. A lot of people know repeated addition. Now imagine that the C language not having a multiplication, yeah, so loop and so on, right? Very good. So imagine the C language not having a multiply instruction available. So assume that there was no multiplication operator available. Each time you want to multiply, you would have to do repeated addition, right? And so on. So it would be so cumbersome. But because it has a multiply instruction, no, your life is simple. Your life is simple. But so that is what I mean by a powerful instruction. That is what I mean by a powerful instruction. Now you can ask me various questions like how powerful is the language? How powerful is the language? Well, it depends on the design of the language. So, for example, somebody can say even exponentiation is something I require maybe every second instruction is an exponentiation. So I would want an exponentiation operator also. That's fine. Somebody can go ahead and he can say, why not make the machine more powerful? I need sorting pretty often. So do I have a sort? By the way, does the C language have a sort instruction? So can you give it like 10 numbers and can it sort for you? No, right? I think, okay, a lot of people know that. Very good, very good. So a lot of people know that. So it doesn't have a sort instruction. Now, what is the reason for it? The reason for it is that sorting is something which is not an everyday task. And probably if you want to design a language which has sorting, the underlying hardware will also become fairly complicated. And then if you want to do sorting, that there are different algorithms which you can implement using those instructions already available, right? So things become easier, and this is probably one of the reasons why high level languages have powerful instructions. I hope it answers that question somebody had posed. And then if you look at even high level languages, you realize you have certain languages like object oriented languages. Now people are just not satisfied with the way you model the world. So when you model the world, you think of objects and you think of um, objects inheriting characteristics, and then you think of protection and so on. So there are certain languages which supply that as well, right? So it depends on the task at hand. So you have a host of different languages which you can use. So I hope the powerful instruction part is answered to whoever had posed it, right? And then good things about it is it's independent of the architecture and you can focus on that task. Okay, so if you understand that, now let me pose one more question to you. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line is machine language is convenient for computers, right? Okay, so maybe before this question, okay, so the inference is machine language is convenient for hardware design, and a high level language is convenient for users. So it is actually the convenience that we are worrying about, right? So it is actually the convenience that we are worrying about. Okay, so what we are saying is, so the inference is, so very informally we can say machine language is convenient for the hardware and high level is convenient for the user. If you understand that, let me pose another question to you. How can you execute a program written in language L1, say L1, on a hardware which understands or executes, whatever you want to call it, which understands language L0. This is the question, right? So we understand now. Okay, let me just align it. Yeah. All right. So what do we understand now? We understand that computers understand something else. Humans want to program in something else. Let us say those languages are called as L0 and L1. So the hardware understands or executes L0, and the humans write their programs in language L1. Then the question is, how do you execute your program written in L1? Can somebody tell me? I'll just be back in a minute, right? So I'll just be back in a minute. I'll just pause this. You can think about this and then. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. So, okay. So, can we see? Okay. So, I think there were a lot of answers. I'll have to scroll. Okay. So, okay. A lot of people answer. So, that's very nice. I see a lot of people answering. That's really nice. Somebody said compiler converting L1 into machine commands, convert L1 to L0, compiling, convert L1 to L0, tools like compiler, write a program, having instructions written in L0 means it can execute on a machine, which we convert an L1 program to L0, map instructions. Very good, very good. A lot of people have got the idea, right? A lot of people have got the idea. So I will try to put it in, right? So I will try to put it on paper and see if you appreciate, right? Okay. So there are two ways to do that. There are two ways to do it, and these ways are equivalent, which means that it really doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter if whichever way you use. So what is the first way? The first method is called as translation. The first method is called as translation, which some people were saying. So what do you do? What do you do? You write a program in L0, right? So you write a program in language L0, which takes input as a program in L1 and produces equivalent code in L0. Right? So this is what you can do, right? So as somebody had pointed out, who was that? Right. So Nitin says, so this program which you write in L0, right? This program that you write in L0 can actually execute on your machine because your machine understands L0, right? So what this program does is it takes input in L1 and produces equivalent code in L0. Now this equivalent code can run on your machine, right? This, if you use something like this is called as translation, right? This is called as translation. And this program that you have written in L0, this is called as a translator, right? This is called as a translator. Usually this translator is also called as a compiler, right? This is also called as a compiler, right? That is one way to do it. Okay, what is the other way? What is the other way? The other way is what is called as interpretation. Okay, so what do? You write a program in L0 which examines the code in L1 instruction by instruction. That is, it takes one instruction at a time, then it looks at the second instruction. So you write a program in L0 which examines the code in L1 instruction by instruction, decodes it. When I say decodes it, I mean interpret it. Decodes it and executes on hardware, and then goes to the next instruction. So if you see, what are we saying? So we are saying that you write a program in L0. This program is called as a translator, right? So the translator takes the input as L1 and produces equivalent code in L0, and then this L0 can be fed to the machine, right? So, and here you have a program written in L0. This program is usually called as the interpreter. What the interpreter is doing is it is examining the code and decoding it and executing it on the hardware, and then it goes to the second instruction and so on. Well, these two approaches are equivalent in terms of the kind of work that they do. They only differ in the implementation aspect and in terms of efficiency and so on. Okay, so the other thing to observe here is, maybe I'm not writing it down, that here in case of translation, this equivalent code is in control. So I can write this. Okay, I can put the star here, and I can okay, the star indicates excuse me, who is in control of the machine or hardware. So what essentially I'm trying to say is, in case of translation, you can throw away this, just a minute. Yeah. So coming back, what I'm saying is, in case of a translation, this translator can be thrown away. This input program in L1 can be thrown away. And you can take this equivalent generated code in L0 and put it on the machine. So in case of a translation, this equivalent code is in control of the machine. On the other hand, if you look at interpretation, right, this program that you write in L0, this is also called as the interpreter, right? This is also called as the interpreter. The interpreter is the one which is controlling the machine. And what is it doing? It on the input side, it takes one instruction at a time, in L1, it interprets it to an instruction in L0, executes on the hardware, goes to the next instruction. So this is how interpretation and translation differ. But again, this is just an implementation aspect. But logically speaking, both these techniques are similar, right? Both these techniques are similar. Any questions here? I can take it. Otherwise, I'll move ahead. Right? Any questions? Okay. Right. So if there are no questions, then what do I want to do? I want to build. So now this idea is fantastic. So what do you observe here? You observe that there is no need for a computer to understand the language in which you want to program it. It can understand something else. You can program in some other language. You can either use a translator or you can use an interpreter, right? You can either use the translator called as a compiler or the interpreter, and you can go ahead. Now, this idea is fantastic, right? Why is it fantastic? Because is translation, okay, somebody says, is translation less time consuming than interpretation? Okay, well, it is too early to answer all that. If you look at the quantum of work, probably the quantum of work remains the same in both cases. So there should ideally be no difference. But if you look at compiling, because compiling looks at the entire code, you can do certain other checks, right, which you might not be able to do in case of interpretation. So usually it is believed that because interpretation is done on the fly, it is faster. But then interpretation has its own limitations. So usually the rule is that interpretation is faster, compiling is slow. I hope that answers Darshan, right? Okay. So now what we can do is we can visualize a computer or build a computer as a multi-level machine. Right? So, okay. So where are we now? We are saying that if we understand all that, we can visualize. So what are we saying? We can visualize a computer or build a computer as a multi-level machine. Now, what do we mean by that? Right? I will try to explain and see if it makes sense. So I am saying I have the bare metal, right? I have the bare metal. So suppose this is your computer, right? So some box, right? Some box which you have here. And how will I denote it? I will denote it as M0, L0. Right? I will denote it as M0, L0. What do I mean by this is machine M0 can directly execute programs written in language L0. This is what I mean by it, right? This is what I mean by it. This is my representation. So whenever I say I have a box here, you understand that a particular box understands only a particular language. So the machine language is called as L0. And let us say that you have given the name to the machine as M0. So if I draw a box like this and I say this is M0, you know that this M0 can understand a language L0. And let us say I call this as some level 0. Level 0. Right? So I have defined a machine. I call this machine as a level. And I say this machine understands a particular language. Now, what is my intention? My intention is I don't want to program in this language. Why? Because it is not convenient for me. So what do? I say I will abstract this machine or I will virtualize this machine into another machine, right? And say I call this machine as M1 and I say it understands a language L1 and I will call this as level 1. See this. Can you appreciate this? Right? And very similar arguments, right? So I say that machine M1 can actually execute programs written in L1, right? But it cannot directly execute those programs here. So can somebody guess how do I build this machine? Can somebody guess how do I build this M1? Can somebody help me? How do you execute these programs in L1? So this is a machine M1 which can take a program in L1 and you know it can execute. But can you guess how do I build this machine? Anybody? Okay, I think we're all out of time. Anybody? Am I audible? Yes, I'm audible. Right. Okay. So, okay, maybe, right. So we program a translator in level 0. Okay. So either translate to L0 or interpret to L0. Right? So what do you understand is that you will need a piece of software here, right? So this is a software. This is a software which could be either a translator or it could be an interpreter, right? So maybe this, okay, maybe I should use a different color pen for that. So you see this blue box, right? Yeah, I hope you can see that. So what we are saying is that this machine M1 can take an input in L1, right? And it can execute. But you realize that this is not an actual machine. This is not an actual machine. This is just an abstraction. This is just a level of a machine. But how do you realize this machine? You realize this machine by running a software on the hardware, and this software can either be a translator or it can be an interpreter. If it is a translator, it translates to L0. If it is an interpreter, it interprets to level L0, or in other words, it executes on this machine. I hope you will realize also that this translator or this interpreter, can you realize in which language do you need to write this in the translator or interpreter? Can somebody tell me? Which language will be used to write the translator? L0. There is absolutely no other option. There is absolutely no other option, I think. Okay, very good. So a lot of people understand it. Okay, I think we are just out of time. I'll just extend this idea and see if you can, okay, if you somebody can help me. Let us say I take this idea and build another machine called as M2, L2, right? And say I call this as level 2. Can somebody tell me how to build this machine? Can somebody tell me how to build this M2? Can somebody tell me how to build this M2? Anybody? So translate or so one somebody says translate or interpret to L1. Any other options that you have? Very good. So I think somebody says. So I would write that here. So you can translate to L1 or L0 or interpret to L1 or L0. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to everybody? Okay, so if I translate to L1 or interpret to L1, the translator or the interpreter executes here. I hope most of you can appreciate that. But suppose if I say I want to translate to L0 or interpret to L0, then you can actually, there's no need for an intermediate translation or interpretation to L1. You can straight away translate to L0. I hope you understand that. Is this fine with everybody? And then you can keep on taking this further and so on. So you can have a level 3. You can have a level 3, and you can build a machine called as M3, L3, and so on. And you can keep on doing that till you have the nth level. All right. So somebody has a question, Nitin. If M2 can translate to L0, then M1 is useless. Why use M1? Okay, yes. So essentially, we are coming to that question. Are we through with time? Oh, no. Okay, I think we are through with time. I will stop here. We'll continue the discussion from the next class. Can I stop? Can I stop? Yes. Okay, thank you.